Hey guys, Level Cap here, and today's an exciting day for Battlefield 1 because the new fall update is out. The game has been patched, it's had a lot of balance changes, map changes, weapon balance, gadget balance. There's tons of changes in this patch, and I'm going to be going over the important stuff right now. It is a huge patch list. If you want to read through the whole thing, I'll put a link in the video description, but I'll be going over what I think is some of the most important and gameplay impactful changes. Some of the biggest changes have been made to the operations game mode. They've increased the ticket count for the attacking team on the 64-player game mode from 150 to 250. This will give them much better chances of pushing all the way through a map, capturing the points. They've also made it faster to cap the points, so it won't take quite as long or quite as many people. And they've also increased the amount of tickets you regain when capturing a sector, giving you a better chance of pushing on to the next sector. And they've also increased the amount of tickets regained from killing retreating defenders after capturing a sector from 2 to 3 tickets. So this should hopefully allow attacking teams to push through much more frequently and get to those later maps in the operations game mode. And I already tested it out a few times, and I was able to get through to the second maps and play all the way through the second map quite extensively. And that's been really nice, being able to play through Empire's Edge and check out what that map is like on operations. This is a very good update to the operations game mode, makes it much more playable. The developers have also made quite a few changes to Suez on Conquest, as the layout before, even for Conquest Large, only had 3 points to capture, and with 64 players it got pretty intense. They've added 2 more flags, but it's been in a linear fashion, so we'll have to see how this actually changes the progression of that map. I mean, you could look at it like Operation Lockers, where there is usually just a front line on that map, regardless of having so many flags distributed throughout the entire length of the map. It would usually became a stalemate in the center. So we'll have to see if adding 2 flags on the end really makes any big changes on the gameplay. They've also changed up some of the capture radiuses and stuff like that, and added an armored car to the map as well. The Battlefield UI has been updated slightly, so now you can customize your soldier from within the UI rather than having to join a game to start messing around with the different weapons you've unlocked. They've also added in a feature so that squad leaders can be removed from their leadership roles and someone else in the squad will get a chance to take over if they ignore enough orders. So that's a pretty good feature, something that's been heavily requested and should hopefully get the right people in charge of the squads. The Rush game mode has now been updated so that both sides have the exact same weather conditions. If one side had a foggy weather condition and the other side did not, it could really change up who had the advantage or disadvantage. An interesting patch note is that you're supposed to be able to buy battle packs from the store, but then it also says coming soon. So basically the status with battle packs and buying them has not changed at all, but we know it will be coming at some point in the near future. One of the big updates is that you can now rent a server, and I've been looking over the rental server options. They all look good, except for the freaking vehicle spawn timer. This means people renting servers will be able to set it up so that you can have an instant respawn for all vehicles in the game. Sounds like fun, having tanks coming back instantaneously after you worked your ass off to kill them. This is going to be a great option, DICE. Why don't you put low gravity and instagib in there as well? We'll have to wait and see how the privately run servers affect the overall Battlefield experience. Personally, I'm looking forward to it, mostly for a good map rotation selection so that we can play some of the good Conquest maps or some of the good Rush maps back to back. The quit button is now available at the end of a game round, so if you're done playing Battlefield, you can hit the little quit button rather than having to hit Alt F4 on your computer. So that's a nice little feature that's been added into the game. Squad XP boosts have been added to the game. You can get these from opening battle packs. There's also a new revision of weapons this time around. Some cool skins in there. Players who notice that the weather system could desync on players after rejoining a game, that should now be fixed. So people not seeing fog and people seeing fog in the same game, that shouldn't be happening anymore. Now, using syringes to damage enemy players has also been tweaked. Basically, you had to pull the syringe back all the way before in order to get a lethal kill on an enemy, and if you didn't pull it back all the way, you wouldn't really do anything to an enemy. They've set it up now so that if you only pull the syringe back like halfway, you'll still do some damage to the enemy. So the syringe is going to be a more fun melee weapon. One interesting little change they made was a filter option for the kill log in the heads-up display. By default, the kill log is turned off. Most players will turn it on so that they can get a little bit more information about what's going on in the round, but now you can filter that so it'll show you everyone, squad, self, or nearby kills. And that could be really interesting, especially the nearby kill setting, because if you see that enemy players are killing your teammates and it's set to nearby, you know that means that enemies are nearby. So it's just a little bit more information and could be very useful. I think I'll be trying that out. It could also be extremely useful for anyone playing the medic class. If you see people on your team dying in the nearby filter, then you'll know to look around and look for those dead bodies to get those fast revives. Now, there's also been some significant changes made to weapon balance, primarily focusing on machine guns for the support class. Many people were complaining about them as being underpowered. The devs have tried to balance them out to make them more effective as mid-range weapons. Not close-range weapons, not long-range weapons, but mid-range. First of all, they've increased the suppression you do at medium range, so that means people trying to return fire at medium range are going to have a harder time hitting you. They've also increased the aimed accuracy of basically all the support's machine guns. So if you're aiming down sight, you should be shooting more accurately. Then they've tweaked guns like the Lewis and the Hewitt so that they have less first shot recoil. They've actually increased the horizontal recoil on the Bar M1918. And then they've added bipods to any machine gun with a low weight tag on it. So you can basically deploy that bipod on any ledge or go prone and you'll be shooting more accurately. They've also adjusted the accuracy values of SMGs to try and better represent the differences between SMGs and LMGs. My guess here is that they've made SMGs significantly less accurate so that they're forced to be more of a close quarter weapon and less of a medium range weapon. And hopefully this will better distinguish the two gun classes and the classes in general. Now the level 10 SMG for the assault class, the Hellrugal, now overheats a bit slower, but it also has increased horizontal recoil. So we'll have to see if it's quite as powerful as it used to be at medium range. My guess is no. The universal sidearm, the MLE 1903 handgun, basically has lesser reload time now, so that's good. It also has a shorter deploy time. And they've also tweaked the supports handgun, the M1912, and sped up the deploy animation for a higher energy feeling. They've slightly reduced the rate of fire for the Russian 1895 infantry and sniper and made the time when you can fire again more readable. Then they've also changed the damage multipliers for buckshot to be more consistent. This will eliminate some of the unintentionally high and unintentionally low damage hits, so hopefully shotguns will in general be more consistent weapons. There's been no changes or tweaks to any of the medic guns this patch. Unfortunately, the 1906 is going to remain largely unusable, but hopefully DICE will take a look at that gun in the near future. Now, when it comes to gadget balance, DICE has really tweaked the way that airburst mortars work. You can still fire them very quickly and deal a lot of damage and get lots of kills. However, firing them accurately is going to be a bit of a slower process, as the time in between shots to regain your accuracy is going to be a bit longer. You can still spam fire them, but your shots are going to be less accurate. This is going to make cover and trenches and stuff more effective, where mortar classes are not going to be able to land their shots perfectly where they want every time, at least if they're trying to fire those shots off quickly. Also, the radius for airburst mortars has been reduced a bit, so they're not necessarily going to get that perfect 65 damage every time. Now, the HE mortar can now fire just as far as the airburst could before, so it's going to be a little bit more effective. And they've also added smoke to both of the different mortars. So basically, if you don't want to fire a lethal shot, you can fire something that's going to visually obstruct your enemy or allow you to put down some cover to move across a field. I think this is a great change to the mortar class. I've used it a bit in game already. I've gotten some kills with it. It's certainly not as effective as it was before, but in my opinion, it was just overpowered before. And now it's more of a support style gadget. You can use it to sort of distract enemies, kind of bombard a general area, and lay down some cover. So it's just a much better gadget all around now. This is going to be one of the most impactful changes on the game as well. DICE has also tried to buff the rifle grenades a bit for the medic class. It's pretty hard to pull the medic away from the syringe and med packs, as those gadgets are just so insanely useful. But I think they're really trying to encourage the use of these weapons. They've decreased the delay after firing them. So basically your grenade's not going to bounce around everywhere and not get kills. So the delay's down. The bounce effect from the grenades is reduced as well. So it'll make it a bit more of an effective grenade launcher type system. Now, they've also added some changes to let players know when their shots are ricocheting off of armored targets. This is something that happens a lot, especially with like the AT rocket gun or tanks shooting other tanks. Depending on the angle you hit the armor, your shot can ricochet off of that armor, not causing any damage. Now, DICE has tried to make this more visually apparent by increasing some of the basically tracers from the ricochet shot, so you'll see the shot ricochet off of it. And they've also added a special indicator sound for glancing hits on vehicles. So this should serve to make the player more aware of what's actually going on in the game, that their shots are ricocheting, as opposed to the game being broken and just not giving them hit indicators. Now, when dealing damage to the behemoth, you'll actually get points for just smaller amounts of damage. You won't have to build up a certain amount of damage before it awards you the 20-point chunk, and this will be a better indicator of how much damage you're doing to a behemoth as well. I think this is a nice update, especially when using something like the attack plane, and I'm not really sure how much damage I'm doing per shot to the behemoth. Now I know from this update. Now, when it comes to vehicle balance, the fortress guns that you can find on a bunch of maps like Empire's Edge will now not suck as much as they did before. They do more damage. They have a bigger area of effect to them, so hopefully this will make it easier to actually use them, and they might actually become valuable assets in the map rather than things that people just straight up ignore. AA vehicles and stationary guns have seen a bit of a change. First of all, there's just been a straight up damage decrease against aircraft overall. They've also adjusted it so it doesn't damage plane parts quite as much as it did before. They've also reduced the range of the AA truck so that it better aligns with the AA stationaries to prevent people from camping spawns. And for those of you who might be thinking that this is going to make anti-aircraft guns totally ineffective, I can tell you absolutely not. I've already been absolutely obliterated by somebody in a stationary AA gun without any chance of escaping. So it's a nice update. I don't feel as completely obliterated by AA as I did before, but you still have to be careful and skillful as a pilot. They've also made some changes to the planes themselves. They tried to increase the damage radius of the darts that you can get for the fighter plane. They've reduced the damage of scout rifles against plane parts, but they've increased the damage that K bullets can do against attack planes. And I think this is good. It means that if somebody prepares for it, they can actually do a good amount of damage to an attack plane coming by for a bombing run. DICE has also addressed a very big exploit that's been in the game on any map that has torpedo boats in them. Basically, an uninhabited torpedo boat, one that nobody's gotten into or spawned into yet, still awards players a ton of points for killing it. So people would just go up to these boats and kill them over and over again, and they would instantaneously respawn for a crap load of points, and people were getting top of the scoreboard without any kills or deaths and ranking up this way. It's a huge exploit, and thankfully is no longer in the game, since attack boats that are just staying stationary at spawn are now invulnerable. There's also been a nice update that you can change in your options to decouple passenger aiming from being affected by the turning of a vehicle. This can be really nice for getting better accuracy if you're the passenger in an airplane or any other land vehicle, and it should hopefully allow tank gunners and airplane gunners to just be more precise. DICE has also improved server performance and bandwidth usage for airplanes, which I have to say was affecting me like crazy before the patch. After the patch, it is not completely fixed. It's better than it was before. Airplanes before were just rubber banding everywhere. Now they're just slightly rubber banding a little bit. It's bad for dogfights for me. DICE, you gotta go a little bit further with this one, but I'm glad you're aware of it and taking action to fix it. They've also added grenades to the high frequency updates, so people who have been taking damage from explosives that didn't actually explode yet, that should be fixed. And they've also slightly lowered the loading times between maps. They've improved CPU optimization. They've made some optimizations to DirectX 12 if any of you guys are trying that out. They've made multiple improvements to collision bugs, crashing bugs, and so on and so forth. There are a ton of fixes in the changelog here. You're welcome to read through them if you want. I think the most impactful changes here that people are going to notice right away are the changes to the operations game modes. Those should be lasting a lot longer and going to the second maps or even third maps more frequently. And then the change to the mortars is going to be a huge change up. Airburst won't be flying through the air quite as frequently as they were before, and if they are flying through the air, you know that they won't be guaranteed to be 100% accurate each time. So it's just nice. It's going to be a very, very good update for the game, and those private servers as well are probably going to start to roll out and change up the game modes and the ways that people are playing this game as well. So this is a pretty exciting update, and I want to honestly just get back to it and play some more. So as always, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.